The Taoist monk, Han Sheng, was a young man from a wealthy family who was very hospitable. There was a man named Shu in the same village who often came to his house for drinks. One day, while Han Sheng was hosting guests, a Taoist monk came to the door seeking alms. The family tried to offer him money or grains in a bowl, but the Taoist refused to accept and insisted on staying. Angered by his persistence, the family turned away from him. Han Sheng, hearing the continuous sound of the bowl being struck, asked the family what was going on, and they told him about the situation. Before they could finish speaking, the Taoist entered the door. Han Sheng invited him to take a seat, and after exchanging greetings with the guests, the Taoist sat down. After chatting with him for a while, Han Sheng learned that the Taoist had just arrived and settled in an abandoned temple to the east of the village. Han Sheng said, "Master, when did you come to reside in the Taoist temple to the east of the village?" "I didn't hear about it. I really haven't fulfilled the duties of a landlord." The Taoist replied, "I am a wandering hermit, just arrived in this blessed land, with no acquaintances. I heard that you, sir, are very generous and hospitable, so I came to ask for a cup of wine." Han Sheng then invited the Taoist to drink. The Taoist had a good capacity for alcohol and drank heartily. Shu, seeing the Taoist's dirty and tattered robe, treated him disrespectfully, and Han Sheng also regarded the Taoist as just another wandering guest. After drinking more than 20 cups, the Taoist took his leave. From then on, whenever there was a banquet at Han's house, the Taoist would come, eat, and drink. Han Sheng became somewhat tired of his frequent visits. One day, while drinking, Shu mocked, "Master Taoist, you're a guest every day. Don't you want to be the host for once?" The Taoist laughed and said, "A Taoist and a gentleman like you are both just on two shoulders." Shu was ashamed and speechless. The Taoist said, "Although that's what I said, I have long harbored the intention to repay everyone's kindness, and I will definitely prepare some fine wine as a token of gratitude when the time comes." After finishing the wine, the Taoist instructed, "Tomorrow at noon I request everyone's presence at my humble abode." The following day, Han and Shu received invitations to the dilapidated temple for a feast, both wondering if the Taoist would indeed arrange a banquet. As they made their way towards the temple, they encountered the Taoist waiting for them along the way, and the three conversed as they walked, arriving at the temple gate without realizing it. Upon entry, they were astounded to find the courtyard completely renovated, with buildings extending as far as the eye could see. Both were amazed and queried, "We haven't been here for a long time. When were these buildings constructed?" The Taoist replied, "They were just completed recently." Upon entering the main hall, they found the furnishings even more magnificent, surpassing those of aristocratic families. Both couldn't help but show their respect. Just as they settled down, dishes and wine were served by boys and girls, all around 16 years old, dressed in splendid long robes and crimson satin shoes. The food was fragrant and sumptuous. After the meal, desserts were served, most of which were exotic fruits whose names they couldn't recall, displayed on crystal and jade platters that illuminated the table. Wine was poured into glass cups, each over a foot thick. The Taoist then instructed the boys and girls, "Call the Shi sisters here." After a short while, two beautiful women entered, one tall and slender like a delicate willow, the other shorter and younger, both exceedingly charming and incomparable. The Taoist asked them to sing to enliven the atmosphere. The younger one clapped and sang, while the older one played the flute to accompany, their voices soft and clear. After a song, the Taoist raised his glass to toast and asked the two women to pour wine for the guests. He then looked at them and asked, "It's been a long time since the beauties danced. Can you still dance?" Several servants laid carpets, and the two women danced facing each other, their long sleeves fluttering, spreading fragrance all around. After the dance, they leaned against the screen. Shu and Han were intoxicated and lost in admiration without realizing it. The Taoist no longer attended to the guests, downed his glass, and stood up to say, "Please help yourselves to the wine. I'll take a short break and be back soon." With that, he left. There was a bed under the southern wall with shells embedded in the wood, and the two women spread silk quilts over it, helping the Taoist lie down. The Taoist pulled the older woman, lay down with her, and asked the younger one to scratch his itch while standing beside the bed. Shu and Han saw this and were extremely displeased. Shu shouted, "Taoist, this is unacceptable," wanting to stop him, but the Taoist hurriedly got up and fled. Shu saw the younger woman still standing by the bed, so he took her to the bed on the north side and lay down with her openly. Looking at the woman sleeping on the south bed, Han said to himself, "Why be too conservative?" and went straight to the south bed. He wanted to get close to the woman, but she was already asleep and couldn't be moved. Han ended up embracing her from behind and fell asleep. When daylight came, Han woke up from his drunken stupor and dream, feeling a cold, icy object in his arms. Upon inspection, he found himself holding a long stone lying under the steps. He hurriedly looked at Shu, who was still asleep, resting his head on a stone from the pit toilet, snoring loudly in the dilapidated restroom. Han kicked him awake, and both were extremely panicked. Looking around, they saw only a courtyard overgrown with weeds and two dilapidated temples.